are these people?
All right.
The only British people Indy likes. They're great.
No, that's not true. We're about to get to some other ones. Well, first of all, Laura at Normal Island News, I have a real thing for her, even though she's not real.
If that is your real name.
Even though she's not a real human being and it's a parody account and it's an anon, and I adore that account. It just warms my heart. But here's another one. Connected with Laura is Ricky Hale and Council of State Media. I really do like the work that they do as well. They are a 2024 Indie Media Award honoree for Top Outlet. And they came out with, again, more documentation about the UK. It's funny, this is a very UK-focused, international-focused show tonight. But this time, Freedom of Information documents show that, of course, Israel's behind the crackdown on dissent in the UK. Now, I don't know that anybody's really surprised by this. As he says, this should surprise no one. But now we've actually got it
and
in
we've
writing.
Seen a couple outlets cover it recently too.
Right?
You know, Declassified touched on it. I think Grey Zone touched on it.
They did.
Clarenberg did, I think, specifically.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Lots of award-winning journalists, which is why we're going to talk about it. So as Ricky states, you know,
Israel essentially. Like, I mean, they've requested police crackdown specifically on multiple journalists, so, which I'm sure you're about to tell us.
Yep. So he says, you know how we've seen a massive wave of suppression in the UK with journalists, activists, social media users, and protesters being treated as terrorists? Right. Well, you'll be unsurprised to hear this was being coordinated with the Israeli embassy. I wonder if that also was happening in Canada. A series of Freedom of Information requests have shown that Israeli interference in our justice system is extensive. Such interference is completely illegal, of course, not that anything will happen. Released emails discuss the introduction of moves to crack down on dissent, such as the Police, Crime and Sentencing and Courts Act, and coordination with Facebook and Instagram. They've done that in the United States, too. They showed the Israeli embassy pressured Attorney General's office, to clamp down on pro-Palestinian protests, just like here. And arms manufacturer Elbit Systems was regularly meeting with high-ranking officials. That's right. And they've been pressured quite a bit by protesters and activists.
Palestinian Action.
Yep.
Correct.
So redactions in the documents were justified by the Attorney General's office as the details would be likely to prejudice the UK's relations with Israel. You think? It shouldn't, because they have free speech laws in England, but apparently not. Basically, we can't know the full extent to which Israel is even interfering in our politics, because this would, of course, upset Israel. That sounds very much like Laura, by the way. The documents.
Oh no.
The documents demonstrate that Israel holds influence over government ministers, the Attorney General's office, the Crown Prosecution Service, and the police. And by the way, Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well. We've talked about how he sleeps next to the 98th most influential Zionist in the world, according to the World Zionist Congress. The latest revolution is that the AGO passed on contact details of the CPS and counterterrorism police to the Israeli embassy in a heavily redacted email. Needless to say, the CPS is supposed to be operationally independent, and there's no reason for the Israeli embassy to be in contact with it, you would think. So they got this email sent by Nicola Smith, the head of international law at the AGO, to Daniela Grutsky-Eckstein, who is Israel's deputy ambassador to the UK. And what we see again is very little, although it says Nicola Smith to Israelis re CPS SOIS contact details. So right there, you've got something. There again, here it says it's the subject contacts CPS SO15 is what it is. Okay, and then everything else is redacted other than let me know if you have any questions. What do you think they're giving them there and what they're asking for there?
Yeah.
Smith and Eckstein had met 11 days prior to this email. All we know is that they discussed the people who had worked on the Palestine Action case. We're not allowed to know any further details about the conversation. Isn't that nice? That's full transparency, right?
He's nice.
I think so. This is just the latest piece of evidence of Israel interfering in the Palestine action case. The CPS was having great difficulty prosecuting members of Palestine Action and other activists because when they appeared in court, juries would acquit them. Would acquit them? Well, how about that? Because they were exercising free speech and not breaking the law? Yeah. Therefore,
if the gloves fit.
Well, this isn't the United States, man. Therefore, politicians started.
In the UK, apparently they do have a right to freedom of expression, but it has restrictions that include terrorisms and hate speech and yada, yada, yada. So, FYI.
Sure.
But, yeah, continue.
So politicians started pressuring judges into not allowing defendants to explain their motivations so they could not elicit sympathy from the jury. What? How can justice possibly be served if you can't explain why you did something? No, they're just allowing themselves to frame the narrative and send you away. It sounds like how they're sending people to CCOT without charges or without any say. The rules were changed during Suella Braverman's reign of terror so that the European Convention on Human Rights would not apply in such cases, especially Julian Assange. The defendants were treated as terrorists even when they weren't charged under the Terrorism Act, even when the alleged crimes wouldn't constitute terrorism according to international legal standards. All of this was done to clamp down on dissent and protect the genocidal state of Israel and quiet not just dissent, but protest against their murdering of babies and children daily with U.S. bombs and British spy flights. One internal file admitted, quote, Palestine Action does not meet the threshold for proscription as they do not commit, participate in, prepare for, promote, encourage, or otherwise be concerned with acts of terrorism, unquote. But that doesn't matter. Despite this, the members of Palestine Action, which are the so-called Filton 18, have been in prison for over 8 months without trial because they tried to stop the UK sending arms to Israel so it can blow up children, as I said a minute ago. How can it be a crime when the UK has suspended some arms licenses on the basis that Israel is already violating international humanitarian law? I love it. It's only some arms licenses.
You violated the law.
Unbelievable. All right. If someone's going to shoot a child and you take that gun and you destroy it, you're not in the wrong. And that's essentially what Palestine Action has done. In August of last year, members of Palestine Action drove a modified prison van into an Elbit Systems factory in Bristol, causing £1 million worth of damage. The team dismantled weapon systems, including the quadcopters that mimic the sound of women and children crying to lure Palestinians into the open to be shot. Yes, I'll read that again because that sounds vaguely important. The team dismantled weapon systems, including the quadcopters that mimic the sound of women and children crying to lure Palestinians into the open to be shot, because they have humanitarian feelings and want to save someone who is crying or help them. And of course, Israel needs to prey upon that humanity and murder the people that go out to try to do that. Isn't that nice? So, of course, let's lock up the people that are trying to destroy the weapons that do that. These weapons were being sent to Israel to commit war crimes, but no one in the UK has been prosecuted for facilitating those war crimes. No surprise. I think our so-called justice system is a bit upside down, don't you? Revolution continues saying, shut Elbit Systems down worldwide. I totally agree over on Substack. None of the Filton 18 were charged with terrorism offenses, yet they've had their rights restricted as though they were, with limits on their legal support, family visits, healthcare, and religious rights while they await trial. Again, this sounds very similar to how they treated Julian Assange. This is because they were arrested under powers granted by the Terrorism Act. How can this be anything other than an abuse of power? The problem is, who holds them accountable? They're already the people in power. It's not just the Israeli embassy that's been interfering in our justice system, of course. Freedom of Information documents show that Home Office ministers and staff have been pressuring police and prosecutors to act against Palestine action since way before October 7th. Remember, folks, this didn't start October 7th. None of this did. Their goal already was to reassure Elbit systems. Again, profits over people all the time. Defense contractors over the people that they are sending the weapons to Israel to murder. Absurdly, a briefing note for one meeting read, quote, a director from the Attorney General's office will be attending to represent the CPS. The CPS declined to participate in this meeting to preserve their operational independence, unquote. They don't even want anything to do with this. The note admits that such a meeting would jeopardize operational independence, yet the CPS sent a representative anyway? Clearly, if you're sending a representative to the meeting, you're not preserving your operational independence. Documents confirm ministers, police, and the CPS and Attorney General were meeting with Elbit Systems to discuss Palestine action, but the details were redacted, as a Jett song very famously says also. One meeting with Elbit was attended by 3 members of Yvette Cooper's home office. That's, again, it's merger of state and private entity and defense contractor. I mean, there's a word for that, right? Yep. I believe it begins with F.
I do believe so.
Sure. So
that's just close enough.
How can it be justifiable for Elbit Systems to be meeting with such people?
Who are these people?
Not good people, I'll tell you right now. Even if you see the arms manufacturer as as a victim of a crime, the only people it needs to be speaking to are police. Elbit just needs to hand over its evidence and submit witness statements. That's it. Anything beyond that is political interference. It's also collusion. It's worse than political interference. Ominously, it's been revealed by Declassified UK. Even. Yeah, maybe, sure. But either way, it's a merger of defense and state and private enterprise and the media and now the courts.
Yep. He who controls the spice controls the universe.
Ominously, it's been revealed by Declassified UK that Elbit Systems has its own intelligence cell that coordinates with British police on a bi-weekly basis. Huh. How about that? An Israeli arms manufacturer is not just building its weapons of genocide here, it's literally spying on our citizens and telling police who to prosecute. Sounds like Beitar that's setting up operations in the United States and handing lists over to the President of the United States of who to prosecute and deport.
Yep.
Such interference surely violates the Crown Prosecution Service's General Principle 2.1. Quote, the independence of the prosecutor is central to the criminal justice system of a democratic society. Prosecutors are independent from persons or agencies that are not part of the prosecution decision-making process. Again, prosecutors are independent from persons or agencies that are not part of the prosecution decision-making process, like Elbit Systems.
Okay.
CPS prosecutors are also independent from the police, not in this case, and other investigators, or should be. Prosecutors must be free to carry out their professional duties without political interference and must not be affected by improper or undue pressure or influence from any source. So who's suing these motherfuckers? That's what I want to know.
Nobody. That's who.
It's worth pointing out that not only do government ministers interfere to prosecute opponents of Israel, they interfere to protect suspected war criminals, such as Tzipi Livni and Gideon Sar. In the latter case, the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy, he gaslit everyone on World Press Freedom Day, we'll get into that in a minute, held a secret meeting with his Israeli counterpart and personally ensured he would not face arrest. which is why I believe we showed on the show when Declassified UK confronted the Israeli minister that tried to sneak into that meeting with Lammy. If he can protect suspected war criminals, he can protect those who oppose war criminals, but no, definitely not. Not eat the rich. Not Motorhead. But he can obviously protect those who oppose war criminals, but he chooses not to. In fact, our government does the opposite. The clear evidence of political interference in the Filton 18 cases has led to calls for the charges to be dropped. In a democracy, any court case would be free from political interference, yet we have interference not just from our own government, but from a foreign government too. How can anybody possibly say justice is going to be served? And again, that's Ricky, Council of State Media, Indie Media Award honoree. This is from his publication, The Dystopian Times. Go subscribe to that. Good dude. Also, Sana Saeed posted something yesterday, was May 3rd, World Press Freedom Day. So you know we were gaslit like crazy by every world government that has been suppressing free speech, that has been prosecuting activists and persecuting journalists, and in Israel's case, murdering journalists. On this World Press Freedom Day, as Sana Saeed, independent journalist formerly of AJ Plus, writes, the Palestinian journalist Ahmad Bassam sends a message from a besieged Gaza. There is no press freedom without the freedom of Palestinian journalists. Over 200 Palestinian journalists and media workers have been killed by the Israelis, purposely targeted, while their slaughter ignored by our press industry. Not just them, but in some cases their entire families as well, because they decided to report on what Israel was doing to where they lived. Our only insight into what's been done to the Palestinians in Gaza, what crimes the US, UK, and Israel have committed, as well as others, has been solely through the efforts of these brave men and women. So let's watch this short video here. Oh, that's cut off. Undo.
I was asked by the Palestinian Journalist Syndicate to stand before you today because I speak English. But you don't need to be speaking more than one language to be able to describe what is being perpetrated here. In fact, very often you don't need words at all. A rolling camera is all it takes to capture crimes that humanity should have never seen. Crimes that our throats went hoarse, screaming and calling on you to stop. For over 574 days, we've been here reporting the ongoing killing of children, women, and civilians, and the wiping out of families. We've been reporting to you exclusive stories of massacred families, of carpet bombings, of children burned in their tents, of babies starved, denied milk. Reporting it to you because partially you can't get in here, but largely because it's our own duty to live stream a genocide against us to you. A genocide that claimed more than 52,000 souls of our children, families, and friends. How have we been rewarded? We've become targets and death counters. We have reported and witnessed the deliberate killing of at least 212 of Palestinian journalists inside the Gaza Strip. 10 of them were burned alive right outside that wall last month. And more will die, denied treatment they desperately need, suffering here. And the toll will rise and rise as you allow this genocide to continue. And today, on the World's Day of Press Freedom, we stand here to remind the world that the press in Gaza is bleeding and is taken hostage by the most depraved occupation in modern history. We stand, have questions to journalists around the world who choose to stand silent before the corpses of their Palestinian journalists, asking them, are we less worthy of freedom than you are? Are we less worthy of life than you are? But we also stand to salute and send our deepest respect to every free journalist and every free person who refused to sell their voices despite temptations and intimidation, and continue to share the truth we broadcast here, to stand by our side as if they were among us. And finally, to the free world, we are exhausted and have every right to take off these useless vests. But we won't, because as we stand today, we once again vow for the blood of every child and every journalist the Israeli occupation has killed here and elsewhere, that we will not forget them. We've done our part. We'll keep it on. And it's about time you start doing yours. Thank you.
The press is free.
Man. And he's right. You know, them wearing those vests puts a target on their back.
Is a target. Yeah.
I mean, if I knew that putting that on would put a target on my back every day, would I do it? Man, that's dedication, honestly. And we don't have a free press. These people are not reported on. They're smeared in the public press, in the corporate media, and their stories are not told. And then they're treated as less than human. And it's disgraceful the way that most people have ignored this story. We have been covering it here since before October 7th, but of course, largely since October 8th, which is when Israel decided to start dropping bombs like crazy on Gaza. And they haven't stopped, other than even during their ceasefire, they were murdering Palestinians. And right now there's been a ceasefire in Lebanon and over 50 Lebanese have been killed since then. They don't cease fire. Ceasefire is just you stop, Israel keeps killing. That's what we've learned.
Yep.
So
Rafat al-Arir's
that
famous words.
Very famous. In addition, we also have Issa Amro, who reported yesterday that the soldiers raided his house today. They wanted revenge from him for participating in the BBC documentary. Where are we here? There we go. He was participating in the BBC documentary, The Settlers. Okay. That's after the army left the settlers, raided his house. All right. They injured one activist and cut the tree. They stole tools and the garage and garbage containers. I mean, all right. The Israeli police officer then came to threaten him not to file a complaint. So if so, he'll be arrested for trying to push the settlers outside his house. It's apartheid. All right. Why didn't that turn Reef back on? It was supposed to. That was weird. Sorry, man. There he goes. All right.
All right.
Me?
No. No, my son.
Me?
No.
No, me.
You?
Yeah.
Why you have your face if you are famous?
You know exactly why.
No.
Yeah,
Because you're doing something wrong.
No, it's because I'm too beautiful to see you,
No, no, come on. It's not about that.
I'm too beautiful to show myself to you.
No, look my face.
None of them wants to show their faces.
I never cover my face. But
Notice how they all know
why
English.
you cover it? It's an army. It's not you. It's an army. You do what the army tells you.
And you send
No, my son. Very famous.
Me?
No.
No, me.
You?
There we go.
Why you have your face if you are famous?
You know exactly why.
No.
Yeah,
Because you're doing something wrong.
No, it's because I'm too beautiful to see you,
No, no, come on. It's not about that.
I'm too beautiful to show myself to you.
No, look my face. I never cover it. I never cover my face.
Because
But
you don't need to cover it.
no, I don't need. Why you cover it? It's an army. It's not you. It's an army. You do what the army tells you.
And you send it to Gaza now.
To where?
To Gaza now.
Who's in Gaza?
To BBC, to Shovrim Shtika,
So what
to
is wrong?
B'Tselem.
What is wrong? B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization. Breaking the silence, they were ex-soldiers from Nahal, from the same unit as you are. BBC is a friend of Israel.
Of course.
Yeah, Gaza, are you afraid of Gaza anymore?
No.
Oh, so,
They are my friends, Gaza.
Kindness, very kindness.
Me?
Right. So that's the first video.
Hayal! Hayal! Hayal!
Settlers looks like.
Yep, sure is. What are they doing? They just want to mess with them.
Yep.
The guy who talked to the BBC is the one who's in trouble. Yeah. Why they? Because they just want to. They want to go in his house. They're just screwing with him like they're
Harassment,
teenage douchebag kids.
Common tactic. Underhooks, homie.
Well, the problem is if you start fighting with them, they're gonna like you. There's 12 of them. They'll just
Yeah, I
jump
know.
on them and start kicking them.
Yeah, it's just you don't let them have free underhooks.
Again, this is because he spoke to the BBC about what the settlers do to him, and now they're doing exactly what he told the BBC they'd do to him. Just so everybody knows clearly what's going on here. Now they're just overtaking this man's property. Why? What are they doing there? They start unplugging things. Now the soldiers are stopping the guys from stopping them.
بطل امسك تليفونك منيح تعال خليك جنبي ابو عادل هون سكر.
All right, now it looks like the soldiers pushing the guys back. But he's telling the people who live there to let him deal with it. Oh, it's a mess. All right, then you had.
I can. I
wish I had a translation there. Oh, and that's the tree that they cut. Just to, again, further screw with him. All right. They cut the tree, they injured an activist, and they stole tools and the garbage containers.
The police officer came to threaten me not to file a complaint. If so, I will be arrested for trying to push the settlers outside my house. Which is just... I don't know how that's...
So, Caitlin
acceptable.
Johnstone says...
again,
Israelis... Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, like, they completely control everything. So, of course, that's the case. But I don't know how anyone other than, fuck, man. You know?
It's so frustrating.
Ugh.
Yeah. So Israelis not only murder journalists, attack journalistic institutions, and block journalists from entering the Gaza Strip, they also persecute Palestinian civilians who speak with journalists, Western journalists.
Yeah.
They don't want any of this information to get out there because anyone who finds out what the hell they're doing immediately knows that it's wrong and should be stopped. Similar thread to what's happening
Same thing.
to here, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Well,
which,
same thing that happened to the Oscar guy as well, the one that won the Oscar.
yes, somebody actually mentioned over Cindy, the revolution continues. Just like the settlers and the IDF beat up the director and producer of No Other Land, the Oscar-winning, award-winning producer.
Correct.
Yeah. And we thought the cops were bad in the U.S. Guess who trains the cops? Welcome, Michael Ginsberg, over on Substack. Good to see you, man. Gen X Girl is a friend of the network, friend of the show. I've done a couple of one-on-ones with her. We are scheduled to do another one coming up this week, and this is going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about. So I wanted to set it up a little bit. She found something really, really interesting the other day. So the ADL, we all know the ADL is a shit organization that has literally been deemed by Wikipedia to be not credible and completely biased, partisan, and not legitimate. So what she found is that on their website, they have been co-publishing and co-producing these videos and documents with an organization called Builders for Tomorrow. So she starts looking into who is Builders for Tomorrow. And as it turns out, this is an organization that does not exist really at all. So they purport themselves to be a venture philanthropy and research organization focused on combating anti-Jewish and anti-West ideologies. Again, anti-Semitism is not anti-Zionism, assholes. Stop doing that. It is led by industry leaders from the tech.
Palestinians are Semitic, so good luck with that.
Correct.
You know,
but it claims to be led by industry leaders from the tech community who've built some of the most consequential technology companies. Who are they? As a venture philanthropy platform, BFT provides grants to whom and how much, and accelerates the most promising teams and ideas. Where? In terms of research, BFT leverages cutting-edge advances in generative AI, and large language models, LLMs, to address pressing global challenges. Sure. The group conducts research across three core areas: combating misinformation online, sounds like the censorship industrial complex to me reinvented; identifying bad actors engaged in criminal activities. Don't we have like online cops for that, and police and FBI and other agencies to handle that through the government? And helping to scale the most promising emerging news and social media accounts that shape public discourse. So basically, they're providing spam and bot support to the most promising emerging news and social media accounts. They're artificially inflating propaganda.
I smell Unit 8200.
Oh, very much. You might be right. So let's read what Gen X Girl learns. Who is Builders for Tomorrow? The ADL and BFT co-produced reports claiming that AI and Wikipedia are biased against Israel, urging Congress to censor. Of course they do. So she described what the non-existent BFT is described as, but here's the thing. They're virtually non-existent as an organization, aside from the references in the ADL reports, which state that the reports were co-produced with BFT, and provides a summary at the bottom about BFT, which we read. It's about who they are and what they are. We read that whole thing. She says, this is highly alarming, given ADL's push for Congress to use these reports to censor and tailor data regarding Israel for AI training and large language models, and regulate or censor Wikipedia for anti-Israel bias. They argue that AI is trained in large part using Wikipedia, and claim that Wikipedia is infiltrated by pro-Hamas editors that create anti-Israel narratives. You mean at the CIA? Because that's who really edits Wikipedia the most, we've learned. ADL's attack on Wikipedia is a retaliation for Wikipedia designating ADL as an unreliable source in 2024. Even Wikipedia knows it. ADL is in fact an unreliable source. The Jewish Currents audited ADL's 2023 anti-Semitism report and determined that 44% of the report was not anti-Semitism because it was just anything that mentioned the word Palestine or that was a protest on behalf of stopping Israel from bombing civilians.
Right.
And they concluded that the ADL is an unreliable source because it is beholden to pro-Israel advocacy. Absolutely. Now it appears that the ADL is attempting to retaliate by censoring its critics through congressional legislation in order to force Wikipedia back under pro-Israel control. To create a sense of crisis, as the ADL often does, they partnered with tech leaders via BFT to make the argument that Wikipedia is an epidemic problem because it's training AI. So, who are the people behind BFT? Who are they affiliated with? What are their foreign ties, given their focus on anti-Israel bias? No one knows. After extensive searches using various search engines, Safari, Kaji, Yandex, as well as DeepSeek, Instagram's AI, and Twitter's Grok, see the second post for Grok's analysis, no information exists. They don't exist. They're a myth. They're a wraith. They exist on paper only by the ADL. There's nothing about BFT. They don't have a website. They don't have an address. They don't have a phone number. There's nothing about its funding. There's nothing about individuals or entities affiliated with this organization. There's no state registration information. The closest she found is in 1962, a not-for-profit organization was registered in New York called Builders for Tomorrow, Inc. They're listed as active, but the file, of course, doesn't have any names or addresses for the entity. What a surprise. It could literally just be some Zionist in New York that bought it and has been paying to keep it alive since the 1960s, literally. She says it's important that we find out who's behind BFT because we can't rely on Congress to investigate. They'll simply take the legislation handed to them along with the talking points developed by the ADL and push for censorship. She's absolutely right.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.
No, it's not. It's Israel. Every time, it's Israel. It's very simple. It's not a mystery at all. All right? So here's the Grok summary. And again, I don't necessarily put a lot of stock in Grok. Very funny. That rhymes. But I find that garbage in, garbage out. And they look at a lot of garbage as well as a platform. And they are taking in a lot of not necessarily true information and measuring that with what might be true information and coming up with somewhere in between. And that's what Grok is. And that's what all of AI is. All right. According to this, it says at the end, it gives all the available information is limited with the primary source being the description from the ADL. Despite extensive searches across web sources, social media platforms, and other public records, no additional definitive details about their leadership, specific affiliated individuals, or operational entities have surfaced. Right? So
I can't tell you that. It's classified.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. That's right. So again, no reputable sources beyond the ADL description provide specific information about BFT's founders, board members, or operational structure. The organization does not appear to have a public website or official social media presence based on current data, which is exactly what you would expect from an organization that monitors social media and tries to find people, having negative activity that might affect Israel. How the fuck do they do that if they don't even exist as an organization on social media? All right. Posts on Twitter mentioning Builders for Tomorrow.
What's up with that? What's up with that?
What's up with that? All right. The ADL is the only related organization, is a well-known organization focused on combating anti-Semitism and hate. That's not exactly true either. However, their mention of BFT does not include links to additional resources or a BFT website. Very much in the right-wing newsosphere that I've been calling out recently, and I found another person who calls himself World Independent News that very similarly doesn't have a website and basically just has a Twitter handle and never puts a link to anything that he references ever. No receipts. Guy's got 65,000 Twitter followers. Given BFT's tech leadership and focus on AI, it's possible that leaders from major tech firms could be involved, but no evidence confirms this. The ADL's description suggests a high-profile group, yet their low public profile is unusual for such an organization. Yeah, I would say that it's unusual. I also suspect one of the very prominent, popular, very well-known billionaires, potentially, who are very outspoken on behalf of Israel, maybe somebody with the last name of Ackman, to be behind something like this. Okay? Or even...
Shit. Throw a rock at the billionaires.
Even
you'll find one.
Alex Karp could be one of them, potentially, Palantir. He's very mysterious. He knows how to play stuff, but the fact that there's no organization registered anywhere in any state or anywhere other than this 1962 obscure thing in New York, red flag upon red flag upon red flag. So I'm excited to talk to Gen X Girl about this even further. Love her. She's doing great work. At Gen X Girl 1994 over on the Twitters. If you have not already followed her there, please do so. She, again, is doing great work, and she's growing her presence. And again, we've already done 2 one-on-ones, INN one-on-one, so by all means, check that out. And we're going to record another one. That'll probably be out this Saturday is my plan to put it out. It's unbelievable that they get away with all this stuff. In the UK, it's all colluded. Yeah. But now I'm starting to really question whether the Assange stuff, now that I'm seeing how similar in vein it is to what they're doing, what Israel is doing to the protesters and journalists now, were they the ones that were actually behind this entire thing the entire time with Assange because he was pro-Palestine? And while it was the US that was directing it, was it Israel directing the U.S. to direct that? It seems that because of the way the tactics that are being used, it seems to be orchestrated out of Tel Aviv. Maybe I'm wrong. And I think that's why we made a deal to let...
He's got a point.
I think that's why we made a deal to get Julian out when we did, the U.S. government. I know they did not want to fly him here, and they did not want to have a public trial that would have put the entire journalistic thing on trial, on top of the fact that they didn't want to even acknowledge his First Amendment rights. That sounds very similar, again, to what they're doing to the Venezuelan migrants that are here, that they don't want to acknowledge their First Amendment rights. Okay? Yeah. Interesting thought, interesting question. And as I was seeing that and just reading it now and watching those videos, I'm like, we see a pattern here, and it's not all coming out of the US and it's not all coming out of CIA. Remember, there's very little continuity in CIA, in a lot of our intel agencies, especially at the top. You've got the deep state, but the decision making that happens at the top, we've had turnover. You know who hasn't? Israel. Now they've started to turn over because it was unpopular. But you had Gallant and Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and Netanyahu in power for quite a while. All right. So could it have been that since 2019, those 4 have been the power source in Israel that also had a tremendous effect over our intel community? That was our fuck Israel segment for the night. We do one of those like every week. We kind of have to. Let me ask one more time to support independent media if you can. We are solely user funded. We do not take sponsor money. We do not do ad reads. We do not have promo codes. We have you, and we have these incredible people that have supported our network. A lot of them are in chat right now, hanging out, and they support the media they want to see. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I love you all. Have a good night, everyone.
Keep listening to what Little Boats have to tell you. See you in a bit, fam.
Bye, Felicia.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
and keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.